people say about modern medicine and mainstream medicine, they never treat the cause, they always treat the symptom. But how can they treat the cause when the cause is in the waveform level of the body and they don't even accept that exists? All they're left with is treating the symptom, which is the projection of an imbalance in the waveform level in the holographic decoded version of reality. And so what humanity has been manipulated to do is look at the world, see how it would like to change it, but running around just the same as standing on the stage in a movie theater and screaming at the screen, demanding that it changes. This is waving your banner in a protest. Screaming at the screen, demanding the movie changes. Never going to change. It's hit the screen, it's a done deal. You want to change the movie, you've got to change where the movie's coming from. Then you can change the movie. So what people have been manipulated into is even trying to change what they would like to change, but doing it in a way that it's impossible. You can't change a movie when it hits the screen. And therefore it's what manifests the movie that we need to change. And that comes down in the human experience to perception, which becomes the feedback loop, which becomes the movie screen.
Right. And I know you want to spend the next few years really going into that perception level. Yeah. And I want to hear about that. I just want to get your thoughts on Trump, the Trump phenomenon, and what you can tell about the rest of the world by looking at their reaction to Trump.
Well, Trump is the equivalent of a Hollywood actor on the movie screen. And the anti-Trumps people are other actors in the movie. And so humanities, those people that get caught in it, he's the baddie, he is. He's the baddie in this movie, that Trump, he's the baddie. Oh no, he's the goodie, he is the person I like, right? It's a movie. And while we are focusing on this, again, this minutiae of Trump, anti-Trump, left, right, and all this nonsense that we get caught into, Silicon Valley's doing what it is doing in terms of destroying freedom of information and driving on behalf of things like DARPA, the technological development arm of the Pentagon, this AI transhumanist agenda. It's a diversion. And you know, just a quick one, I talk about this hidden hand. These here today, gone tomorrow politicians are just that. Here today, gone tomorrow. What we need to look at is that which is always there, because that's where the power is. That's what pushes this agenda on, no matter who's in power, who's the president, what party, whatever. A quick example. In September 2000, an organization in America called the Project for the New American Century published a document calling for the American government to, quote, fight and decisively win multiple theater wars, to bring about a series of regime changes. And it named the countries that they wanted to regime change: Iraq, Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Iran, North Korea, China. The people who published that document included Donald Rumsfeld, who a few months later would be Secretary of State for Defense in the Bush administration, Paul Wolfowitz, who would be his deputy at the Pentagon, Dick Cheney, who would be de facto president under Bush for 2 terms, Dov Zakheim, who would control the entirety of the Pentagon budget in that same period. In that document in September 2000, they said that this process of transformation all these regime changes, would necessarily be slow, this is the quote, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. 1 year to the month after that document was published, 9 months after the people that wrote it came to power in the Bush administration, the United States had, in September 2001, what Bush called at the time the Pearl Harbor of the 21st century. As a result of that, this process of regime change was triggered by the so-called war on terror justified by 9/11, which the official story of 9/11 is tragically laughable when you break it down and you see how the contradictions. Anyway, this is where I'm going in terms of the politicians and Trump. First man in, of course, officially, George W. Bush. They went into Afghanistan. Then, with Tony Blair lying about weapons of mass destruction, they went into Iraq. And the reason they lied about weapons of mass destruction is because Iraq was on this list of regime change. They didn't have an excuse, so they made one up. And by the way, let us not forget, people now, including even the mainstream media, accept that they were lied to over weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which led to a catastrophic invasion and the catastrophe that has followed. Let us not forget that the very same people, not the same agencies, the same governments, the same personalities that told us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when they knew they weren't, were the same people that gave us the official story of 9/11. Okay, so the list, Iraq. Then they go into Libya, also on the list. But now Bush is gone, Blair's gone. Now it's Barack Obama. He's a Democrat, not a Republican. And it's David Cameron. He's a conservative, not the illusory of Labour, Blair. But now they're going into another one on the list, and then into Syria. And again, creating mayhem and catastrophe. I mean, you know, Libya is one of the great world's basket cases now, when it was the highest per capita income country in Africa before they sent the boys in. And so that was Obama and that was Cameron. Then we come to Trump. And Trump is now, yes, he's supposed to be a Republican, but he's the anti-establishment man. He's a maverick. A maverick who was going to drain the swamp and handed the American economy to Goldman Sachs from day one or before day one. But who is he demonizing now? He's demonizing Iran, and he's demonizing North Korea, other people on the list, other countries on the list. So this list from September 2000 has been ticked off all the way through these different politicians and different parties and different personalities. So no matter who's coming and going or who you're going to vote for, you know, it's like some Americans say, you know, it don't matter who you vote for, the government still gets in. Yes, the secret government. Because America's a wonderful example of how it works. So it works the same everywhere. During the Bush administration, and a Republican administration like now, you have this group that control the Republican Party that are acknowledged by the mainstream media. They're called neoconservatives or neocons. They were the people that created the Project for the New American Century, that wrote that document in September 2000. And then in the Democratic Party, you have another group, very much the same, that I call the democons. This is your George Soros's and Zbigniew Brzezinski before he died this year, and others. The key is that if you go one step back in the shadows, the neocons and the democons answer to the same master. So it means that whether it's one or the other, Republican or Democrat, that is always in power. And that's what's been driving this agenda of ticking these countries off as these people come in. Now, I'll give you an example, another example of how the manipulation works. For me, Trump was selected by these people. He was selected by these people for a number of reasons. One was because he would hand the government over to the corporation billionaires, which he's done, more billionaires in this administration than any other American administration. But also, he was, by his very nature, a polarity that you could play another polarity against, because they want divide and rule. They want civil war in America. They want civil war in Europe as well. But because while we're fighting each other, that can do what the hell it likes, unchallenged. But was one thing about Trump, which I think he was genuine on during the election campaign. He really didn't want conflict with Russia. He did want to come together. I think he was genuine on that. So if you look from the moment he got elected, although there were so many things of benefit to this hidden hand with Trump, there was one thing they didn't want, and that was Russia coming together. They want to hold them apart. They want to keep them in conflict. And so the moment he became elected, we had this Russia hacked the election. Russia this, Russia that, Russia the other. I burnt the toast. It's the Russians. And what it has done is prevent him from getting closer to Russia. Because if he tried to, they'd say, hey, controlled by the Russians, so he's got to stay away from it. And therefore, they're holding the two apart.
Is that what the election scandal's about? To make sure he doesn't get closer to the Russians? Yeah,
this is what it's all about.
So more hate, more anxiety, just keep that division going on.
Yeah, what we're talking about, Brian, as we've talked today, is going from a perception of little me, which is what? A perception of apartness, a perception of everything being apart from everything else, to an understanding that we're all actually an expression of the same consciousness. And therefore you see it in politics and in world events, this desire to constantly drive apart. And this is what, in part, political correctness is about. It's about dividing different self-identities from each other and setting them at war with each other. And you know, this thing with Harvey Weinstein and all the stuff going on with allegations of abusing women in Washington and in Westminster. I said earlier that when they want an excuse to stop or to censor, they'll find an excuse that seems quite extreme. And people say, well, yeah, I can understand why they're doing that. But once they've got in, they'll then widen the interpretation until it encompasses people that are nothing to do with this. And so, of course, you have horrific and genuine abuse of women. Of course you do. You find it everywhere. Abuse of men as well. And that needs to be addressed. Of course it does. But if you notice, we've gone from sexual abuse and rape, horrific, but also now pulled into the same perception of abuse, are things that years ago would have been a bit of office banter, would have been a bit of a laugh, you know, having fun, making fun of each other. That's now there. And the effect of this has so frozen people, men particularly, that it was summed up by one British politician who said, I will never hug another woman again who's not my wife. I will shake their hand. And what is this doing? It's driving men and women apart. But you see, this is the classic way they do it. They'll take something that has to be addressed, that is absolutely wrong and can't be allowed to continue. But then they pull everything else into it, into the same conversation. And now, you know, people are, I mean, look at it. Look at the mental gymnastics that people go through before they speak now. They're speaking with a woman. Oh, okay, I'm not going to be spontaneous and just be me and let the energy flow. No, no. How can I put this? No, what mustn't I say? Oh, transgender. Do you know, there was an interview on my website today, which has a guy from Britain who was taken to court for saying to someone who looked like a man and was officially, legally a man, saying to him as he passed, because he'd seen him one or two times, "All right, geezer," as they say in London, "All right, mate, all right, geezer." He went to court and was convicted. He won on appeal, but he was convicted for basically hate speech